Hi! Today's mini lecture is stage 1 of Piaget's theory of cognitive development, and we're going to look at the sensorimotor stage. Sensorimotor stage is based on the idea that infants are active participants in their cognitive development. Piaget outlined 6 stages within this first stage of sensorimotor development. So, the first 2 stages of sensorimotor intelligence are what's called primary circular reactions. An example of a primary circular reaction would incorporate the use of reflexes. So, a baby is going to suck his thumb because sucking is an infant reflex. The circular reaction comes into play when a baby recognizes that, hey, this feels pretty good. So the baby continues sucking his thumb. So primary circular reactions involve reflexes and some sort of a response cycle to continue the reflexive behavior. So the first primary circular reaction, called stage 1, is called reflexes, and this begins at birth and it lasts for the first month of life. So here, the newborn's reflexes, such as sucking, grasping, staring, and listening, represent the infant's only ways of gaining knowledge about her environment. The next stage, stage 2 of primary circular reactions, is called first acquired adaptation. This stage begins at 1 month old and it continues until the baby reaches 4 months. This stage begins when the infant learns to adapt the reflexes that they experimented with in stage 1, and they adapt these reflexes to the environment, and then they pair or coordinate 2 actions. For example, grabbing a bottle, the grabbing reflex is the first action, and then sucking the bottle. The sucking reflex is the second action. The next 2 stages of sensorimotor intelligence are called secondary circular reactions, and this is where an infant initiates motor activities to fulfill his or her own needs. So, stage 3 is called an awareness of things. This stage begins around 4 months old and it ends at 8 months old. Here, infants become much more responsive to people, and they are more responsive to the objects in their environment as they learn to repeat specific actions that have caused them pleasure. An example of this is a baby clapping his hands when a toy reappears from behind a blanket while playing the hide-and-seek game. The next stage is stage 4, and this is called new adaptation and anticipation. This stage begins at 8 months and it lasts until 12 months. Infants during this stage display goal-directed behavior. And this goal-directed behavior is displayed in more purposeful responses to other people. And they also begin to display behavior in anticipation of future events. So here's an example. A baby is now able to crawl, so a baby will display goal-directed behavior by crawling to the cupboard in the kitchen, opening the cupboard where his sippy cups are stored, taking a sippy cup and grunting while holding it up to his mom, as if to say, "I'm thirsty." The next 2 stages, and these are the last 2 stages, are called tertiary circular reactions. And the hallmark of these 2 stages are creativity with people and with ideas. So stage 5 is called the little scientist stage. This stage begins at 12 months old and it continues until 18 months. Children become much more active and much more creative in their exploration of their environment. So here we see that children are physically mobile. Now they're able to walk, and this is where they get into everything. They use trial and error to see how things work. So this is where a toddler is going to see what happens if they flush their rubber ducky down the toilet. Then they might try to see what happens if they flush a stuffed animal down the toilet. So everything here is trial and error. This is where they're going to see what they can plug into a light socket or see what happens when they push all the buttons on the remote control. So just because at this stage babies look bigger and they can do a lot more, it's important to recognize that their little brains haven't caught up with their bodies yet, and they're really not quite able yet to connect the dots between their behaviors and the consequences to their behaviors. The last stage of sensorimotor intelligence is stage 6, and this is called new means through mental combinations. This stage begins at 18 months old and it lasts until the age of 2. And here, babies will use mental combinations or thinking about things before doing things, such as thinking about what happened last time when they tried to flush that stuffed animal down the toilet. So this time, they're a little bit older, they're going to remember that, and they're going to anticipate the consequence, and they're not going to do it, hopefully. So here, children do not rely on trial and error experimentation nearly as much. This enables them to remember better and to also pretend and imagine things. And this is where we see children starting to use imaginative play. Also, at this stage, children display for the first time deferred imitation. And this is where a child might have seen something a day or two earlier, and then they're going to want to try it on for size. So here's an example. A child might be in daycare and sees another child hitting someone. A couple days later, while at home, that child is going to hit his sibling. And a parent is dismayed at this behavior because their child has never hit anyone before. In this example, this is likely simply a situation of deferred imitation, where a child is just trying something on and imitating what they saw a day or two earlier. Piaget noted that during this first stage of sensorimotor intelligence, children achieve a milestone called object permanence. And this is the ability to understand that objects still exist independent of one's perception of that object. So Piaget said that at around 8 months of age, if you're playing hide and seek with a child, that child recognizes for the first time that just because their favorite toy is behind the blanket, it didn't disappear forever. While Piaget said that object permanence appears at 8 months of age, recent research has suggested that infants as young as 4.5 months old do display a degree of object permanence.